In the far reaches of the galaxy, humanity lived under the shadow of ridicule. The other civilizations, advanced and powerful, looked down on Earth as if it were nothing more than a speck of dust in the vastness of space. To them, humans were primitive, weak, and unworthy of attention. They laughed at Earth's clumsy attempts to reach for the stars, mocking its outdated technology and lack of unity. But little did they know that, among the billions of people living on that tiny blue planet, there were those who refused to give up. Daniel Carter was one such person. A young astrophysicist from New York, Daniel had always been fascinated by the mysteries of the universe. From the time he was a child, he dreamed of exploring the stars and uncovering the secrets hidden in the darkness of space. He spent countless nights staring through his telescope, wondering what lay beyond the edge of the solar system. As he grew older, his curiosity turned into determination, and he dedicated his life to studying the cosmos. But it wasn't just about discovery for Daniel. It was about proving that humanity could stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. Working alongside him was Rachel Monroe, a brilliant engineer with a sharp mind and an unshakable will. Rachel came from a small town in Ohio, where she grew up tinkering with machines and gadgets. Her passion for building things led her to study engineering, and eventually, she found herself working on some of the most ambitious projects ever attempted by humankind. Together, Daniel and Rachel formed a partnership that balanced theory with practicality. While Daniel imagined the impossible, Rachel figured out how to make it possible. Their latest project, codenamed Horizon, was Earth's desperate attempt to build a fleet of ships capable of defending the planet against any threat. The idea had started as a small research initiative, but quickly grew into something much bigger. It was no longer just about exploration or science, it was about survival. The leaders of Earth knew that if they didn't take action soon, their world would be swallowed up by the same forces that had crushed so many others before them, but not everyone believed in the project. Many saw it as a waste of resources, arguing that Earth should focus on solving its own problems rather than chasing dreams in the stars. Some even accused Daniel and Rachel of being reckless dreamers, wasting taxpayer money on something that would never work. Despite the criticism, the two refused to give up. They worked tirelessly day and night, pouring every ounce of their energy into making Horizon a reality. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the laboratory, Daniel and Rachel were running tests on an experimental ship. The vessel was sleek and futuristic, unlike anything Earth had ever built before. Its hull gleamed under the artificial lights, and its engines hummed softly, ready to roar to life. This was the prototype for the fleet they hoped to build, a symbol of humanity's potential. As they monitored the data streaming in from the ship's systems, something unusual caught their attention. A faint signal, barely audible over the static, crackled through the speakers. At first, they thought it might be interference, but as they fine-tuned the equipment, the signal became clearer. It wasn't random noise. It was a transmission. Someone or something was trying to communicate, excited and nervous at the same time. Daniel and Rachel recorded the message and began analyzing it. What they discovered sent chills down their spines. The transmission contained coordinates, not just any coordinates, but the location of a secret meeting between members of the Galactic Council. These were the same aliens who had mocked Earth for years, dismissing it as irrelevant. And now they were planning something big. Rachel leaned back in her chair, her brow furrowed in thought. "Do you think this is real?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Could they really be talking about us?" Daniel nodded slowly. "It makes sense. They've always treated us like we're beneath them. Maybe they're finally deciding what to do with us." The implications were terrifying. If the Galactic Council was planning to act against Earth, humanity would have no chance of fighting back. Their fleet was still incomplete, their defenses woefully inadequate. The thought of alien warships descending upon Earth filled Daniel with dread. He couldn't let that happen, not after everything they had worked for. "We need to warn someone," Rachel said firmly. If we don't tell the authorities, we'll lose our only chance to prepare. Without hesitation, Daniel agreed. They gathered all the evidence they could and rushed to the nearest government facility. It took hours of convincing, but eventually they managed to get an audience with a high-ranking official. When they presented their findings, the room fell. Silent. No one spoke for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the official broke the silence. "If what you're saying is true," he said gravely, "then we're in serious trouble." Over the next few days, news of the intercepted transmission spread like wildfire. Panic gripped the planet as people realized the gravity of the situation. For years, humanity had lived in blissful ignorance, assuming that the aliens would leave them alone. Now they faced the harsh truth. Earth was vulnerable, and unless drastic measures were taken, it would fall prey to the very forces it had tried so hard to avoid. Despite the fear, there was also a glimmer of hope. The revelation sparked a wave of unity across the globe. Nations that had once been divided now came together, pooling their resources and expertise to strengthen Earth's defenses. Factories that once produced cars and electronics were converted into shipyards, churning out vessels faster than anyone thought possible. Scientists and engineers worked side by side, pushing the boundaries of what was achievable amidst the chaos. Daniel and Rachel continued to play crucial roles. Their knowledge and experience made them invaluable assets to the project. They worked around the clock, often skipping meals and sleep to ensure that every detail was perfect. Though exhausted, they drew strength from the knowledge that they were part of something greater than themselves. As the days turned into weeks, the Terran fleet began to take shape. Ships of all sizes dotted the skies above launch pads, each one a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. People from all walks of life joined the effort, eager to contribute in any way they could. Farmers, teachers, doctors all pitched in, driven by a shared desire to protect their home. For Daniel and Rachel, the progress was bittersweet. On one hand, they were proud of what they had accomplished. On the other, they couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away. The clock was ticking, and they knew that the moment of truth was fast approaching. Would their efforts be enough? Or would Earth succumb to the same fate as so many other worlds before it? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: humanity was done being laughed at. Whatever happened next, Earth would face it head-on, united and unyielding. The revelation of the Galactic Council's secret meeting sent shockwaves through Earth's governments. For years, humanity had been dismissed as weak and insignificant by the advanced alien civilizations that dominated the galaxy. But now, faced with undeniable evidence of an impending threat, Earth's leaders could no longer ignore the danger. The intercepted transmission revealed not just coordinates but also hints of a plan that likely involved Earth's annexation or destruction. It was clear that humanity's survival depended on swift and decisive action. President Lavra Bennett, a woman known for her calm demeanor and sharp mind, took charge of the situation. She called an emergency summit, bringing together representatives from every nation on Earth. The meeting was tense, filled with heated debates and conflicting opinions. Some argued that Earth should focus on diplomacy, attempting to negotiate peace with the Galactic Council. Others believed that humanity needed to prepare for war, knowing that the aliens would never take them seriously unless they showed strength. After hours of discussion, a decision was made. Earth would unite under one banner, the Terran Alliance, and mobilize all available resources to build a fleet capable of defending the planet. This marked the beginning of a massive global effort. Factories that once produced consumer goods were repurposed to construct warships. Mines worked overtime to extract rare metals needed for advanced technology. Scientists and engineers collaborated across borders, sharing knowledge and expertise to develop cutting-edge weapons and defenses. Every corner of the planet contributed in some way, from small towns donating materials to major cities hosting recruitment drives. For the first time in history, humanity stood united, driven by a common goal: survival. At the heart of this effort were Daniel Carter and Rachel Monroe. Their work on Project Horizon had laid the foundation for the Terran fleet, and now they were tasked with overseeing its expansion. The prototype ship they had tested, once a lone experiment, became the blueprint for an entire armada. Each vessel was designed to be fast, durable, and equipped with the latest advancements in human technology. Energy shields, plasma cannons, and quantum propulsion systems, features once thought impossible, were now standard. Equipment on the fleet's ships. Daniel and Rachel spent countless hours in the command center, monitoring progress and solving problems as they arose. They worked closely with engineers and technicians, ensuring that every ship met the highest standards. Despite their exhaustion, they found inspiration in the people around them. Ordinary citizens, many of whom had never worked in space exploration before, were stepping up to help. Farmers turned mechanics, teachers trained as pilots, and doctors volunteered as medics. Everyone wanted to contribute, no matter how small their role might seem. One such person was Emily Dawson, a farmer from Iowa who had never imagined herself working on spaceships. When the call went out for volunteers, she left her fields behind and traveled to a nearby shipyard. There, she quickly proved her worth, using her hands-on experience with machinery to repair and maintain the fleet's vessels. Her dedication earned her the respect of her peers, and she became a symbol of the grassroots effort that fueled the project. Another key figure was John Miller, a former high school teacher from Chicago. Like many others, he felt compelled to do more than just watch from the sidelines. He enrolled in a crash course for combat training, learning the skills needed to operate a fighter ship. Though he struggled at first, his determination paid off, and he soon became one of the program's top recruits. His story inspired countless others to follow suit, swelling the ranks of the Terran fleet with brave volunteers. As the fleet grew, so did the sense of hope among the people. Billboards and news broadcasts celebrated the progress, showing images of newly completed ships launching into orbit. Social media buzzed with messages of encouragement, and communities organized events to support the workers. Even children got involved, drawing pictures of spaceships and writing letters to the crew members. The spirit of unity was palpable, reminding everyone that they were part of something bigger than themselves. Captain Marcus Halle was chosen to lead the Terran fleet. A seasoned pilot with decades of experience, Marcus had spent most of his life flying experimental aircraft and pushing the limits of human aviation. His calm and steady demeanor made him the perfect choice for such a daunting task. When asked why he accepted the role, he simply said, "Because someone has to." His words resonated deeply with the crew, who saw him as both a leader and a symbol of humanity's resilience. Under Marcus's command, the flagship Solstice was constructed. Larger and more advanced than any other ship in the fleet, it served as both a battleship and a mobile command center. Its sleek design and powerful engines made it a marvel of engineering, while its state-of-the-art weapons ensured it could hold its own in battle. Inside, the Solstice was a hive of activity, with crews working tirelessly to prepare for the mission ahead. Despite the progress, challenges remained. Building a fleet of this scale in such a short amount of time was no easy feat. Resources were stretched thin, and there were moments when it seemed like the project might collapse under its own weight. Equipment malfunctioned, deadlines were missed, and tensions ran high. But whenever setbacks occurred, the team rallied together, finding creative solutions to keep moving forward. One particularly difficult moment came when a critical component for the energy shields failed during testing. Without functioning shields, the fleet would be vulnerable to enemy fire. Daniel and Rachel worked around the clock to identify the problem, consulting with experts from around the world. Finally, after 3 sleepless days, they discovered a flaw in the manufacturing process and developed a fix. The relief was overwhelming, and the incident only strengthened their resolve. As the launch date approached, excitement mingled with anxiety. The fleet was ready, or as ready as it could be, but no one knew what awaited them beyond Earth's atmosphere. Would the Galactic Council honor their plans, or had they already moved against Earth? The uncertainty weighed heavily on everyone, but there was no turning back now. On the eve of the launch, President Bennett addressed the world. Standing in front of a backdrop of stars, she spoke with conviction and clarity. For too long, we have been told that we are weak, that we are insignificant, she said. But today we prove them wrong. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity is strong, that we are united, and that we will not be pushed aside. This is our moment, and I have faith that we will rise to meet it. Her words ignited a fire in the hearts of millions. People gathered in parks, stadiums, and living rooms to watch the broadcast, cheering and clapping as she spoke. For the first time in a long time, there was a sense of pride not just in their leaders, but in themselves. They had built this fleet together, brick by brick, and now they were ready to send it into the unknown. The next morning, the skies above Earth darkened as thousands of ships prepared for departure. Launch pads roared to life, sending plumes of smoke and fire into the air. One by one, the vessels lifted off, their engines blazing brightly against the horizon. The sight was breathtaking, a testament to what humanity could achieve when it worked together. From the bridge of the solstice, Captain Marcus Halley watched as the fleet assembled in orbit. Below him, Earth spun silently, its blue-green surface a reminder of what they were fighting for. Beside him, Daniel and Rachel monitored the fleet's status, ensuring that everything was functioning properly. Though nervous, they couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. What had once been a dream was now a reality. As the fleet moved further away from Earth, the gravity of the situation began to sink in. They were heading into uncharted territory, facing enemies far more advanced than anything humanity had encountered before. But despite the odds, there was a quiet confidence among the crew. They had done everything they could to prepare, and now it was time to see if it would be enough. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger. But one thing was certain: humanity was done being laughed at. Whatever happened next, Earth would face it head-on, united and unyielding. The galaxy would soon learn that the tiny blue planet they had underestimated was not so insignificant after all. The Terran fleet sailed silently through the void of space, a vast armada of ships gliding toward the coordinates intercepted from the Galactic Council's transmission. The journey was long and tense, with every crew member aware of the stakes. This wasn't just a mission. It was humanity's stand against forces that had mocked and underestimated them for centuries. As the fleet approached its destination, the mood aboard the Solstice, the flagship leading the charge, was a mix of determination and unease. Captain Marcus Halley stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared out at the endless expanse of stars. His calm demeanor masked the storm of thoughts swirling in his mind. He had spent years flying experimental aircraft, pushing himself and his machines to their limits. But this was different. This wasn't about breaking records or testing new technology. This was about survival. If they failed here, Earth would pay the price. Beside him, Daniel Carter and Rachel Monroe monitored the fleet systems, ensuring everything was functioning perfectly. Their prototype designs had been scaled up into a full fleet, but even now, doubts lingered in their minds. Would their innovations hold up against alien weapons far more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered? They had done everything they could to prepare, but the unknown loomed large, casting a shadow over their confidence. As the fleet entered the final leg of its journey, sensors picked up activity ahead. The crew gathered around the monitors, their eyes glued to the screens, as shapes began to emerge from the darkness. At first, they were faint outlines, barely visible against the backdrop of space. But as the fleet drew closer, the shapes resolved into a massive assembly of alien vessels. Dozens of ships, each one larger and more intimidating than the last, floated in formation. Their designs varied wildly, some sleek and elegant, others jagged and menacing, but all radiated an aura of power and superiority. Daniel felt his stomach tighten as he took in the sight. These weren't just scouts or patrol ships. This was the full might of the Galactic Council gathered in one place. "They're waiting for us," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's engines. Rachel nodded, her expression grim. "And they don't look happy." On the bridge, Captain Halley gave the order to slow the fleet's approach. The Solstice moved cautiously forward, flanked by smaller escort ships. Every crew member held their breath, unsure of what would happen next. Were the aliens preparing to attack? Or were they simply observing, curious to see what Earth's feeble attempt at resistance looked like? The answer came soon enough. A signal crackled through the communication channels, breaking the silence. It was a voice, deep and resonant, speaking in a language unfamiliar to anyone on the bridge. Moments later, the ship's translation system kicked in, rendering the message in English. "You are trespassing in restricted space," the voice declared. "Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Halle straightened, his face hardening. With resolve, he activated the comm system, his voice steady and clear. "This is Captain Marcus Halle of the Terran fleet. We represent the people of Earth. We have come to ensure that our planet is never again dismissed or threatened. Stand down or face the consequences?" There was a pause long enough to make everyone on the bridge uneasy. Then, laughter filled the channel, a cold, mocking sound that sent chills down their spines. The aliens found the idea of Earth standing up to them amusing, almost laughable. To them, humanity was still nothing more than a primitive species trying to play a game. It didn't understand, but the laughter quickly faded as the Terran fleet continued its advance. The sheer size of the armada caught the aliens off guard. They had expected a few outdated ships, not a fully equipped fleet bristling with weapons and shields. For the first time, doubt crept into their expressions. Could these humans actually pose a threat? One of the alien commanders stepped forward, his features distorted by the holographic display. "You dare challenge the Galactic Council?" He sneered. "You are fools. Your kind has always been weak, divided, and insignificant. What makes you think you can change that?" Halle met the alien's gaze without flinching. "We may have been divided once, but no longer. Today we stand, united, and we will not be pushed aside." The tension in the air was palpable. Both sides knew that words alone wouldn't resolve this conflict. The aliens, unwilling to back down, signaled their fleet to prepare for battle. Weapons charged, shields activated, and engines roared as the two forces squared off against each other. Back on the Solstice, Daniel and Rachel worked furiously to analyze the alien ships. Their designs were unlike anything they had seen before, combining organic and mechanical elements in ways that defied human understanding. Some vessels resembled living creatures, their surfaces pulsating with energy. Others looked like floating fortresses bristling with turrets and cannons. Despite their differences, all of them shared one thing in common. They were built for war. They're ready to fight, Rachel said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "But so are we." Halle gave the order to deploy the fleet's fighters. Dozens of small, agile ships launched from the carriers, spreading out to form a protective screen around the larger vessels. Among the pilots was John Miller, the former teacher turned combat officer. His hands gripped the controls tightly as he scanned the battlefield, searching for targets. Beside him, Emily Dawson piloted another fighter, her focus unwavering despite the chaos around them. "Stay sharp," Hale's voice crackled over the comms. "We don't know what they're capable of." The alien struck first, unleashing a barrage of energy beams and missiles. The Terran fleet responded immediately, raising its shields and returning fire. Plasma cannons roared to life, sending streams of searing energy hurtling toward the enemy ships. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as the battle erupted into full fury. For Daniel and Rachel, the scene unfolding outside was both horrifying and awe-inspiring. Their designs were holding up under fire, proving that humanity's ingenuity could rival even the most advanced alien technology, but the cost was high. Ships on both sides were being destroyed, their wreckage drifting aimlessly through the void. Lives were being lost, and there was no telling how long the Terran fleet could hold out. Amid the chaos, John and Emily flew side by side, dodging enemy fire and taking out targets with precision. Their training had prepared them for this moment, but nothing could truly replicate the reality of war. Each explosion, each flash of light reminded them of the stakes. Failure wasn't an option. "Watch your six," Emily shouted over the comms, warning John of an incoming enemy fighter. He banked sharply, narrowly avoiding a blast that would have torn his ship apart. In retaliation, he fired a missile, watching as it streaked toward the alien vessel and detonated in a brilliant burst of light. "Thanks," John replied, his voice tight with adrenaline. "I owe you one. No problem," Emily said with a grin. "Just stay alive, okay?" As the battle raged on, the Terran fleet began to gain the upper hand. The combination of superior tactics and cutting-edge technology allowed them to outmaneuver the aliens, exploiting weaknesses in their defenses. But the victory came at a price. Several ships had been damaged or destroyed, and the strain on the crew was evident. Exhaustion lined their faces, and the constant barrage of attacks tested their resolve. On the bridge of the Solstice, Halley remained calm, issuing orders with precision. He knew that the key to winning this battle lay in maintaining discipline and focus. Every decision mattered, every action counted. Around him, the crew worked tirelessly, their movements coordinated and efficient. Even in the heat of battle, there was a sense of unity, a shared determination to protect their home, but the aliens weren't done yet. From the heart of their formation emerged a massive dreadnought, its size dwarfing even the largest ships. In the Terran fleet, its surface bristled with weapons and its core pulsed with an ominous energy. This was the weapon they had feared, the one capable of obliterating entire planets. "We need to take it out," Halley said, his voice firm. "If that thing fires, we're finished." Daniel and Rachel exchanged a worried glance. The dreadnought was heavily armored and protected by a swarm of smaller ships. Getting close enough to disable it would be nearly impossible. But they didn't have a choice. If they failed, Earth would be defenseless. "I have an idea," Daniel said suddenly, his eyes lighting up with inspiration. "We can use the quantum disruptors to overload its core, but we'll need to get inside." Halley nodded. "Do it." A small squadron of ships, including the Solstice, broke away from the main fleet and headed toward the dreadnought. Their mission was risky, almost suicidal, but they had no other options. As they approached, the alien ships opened fire, forcing them to weave and dodge to avoid being hit. Explosions rocked the hulls of several vessels, but they pressed on, driven by desperation. Inside the Solstice, the crew braced themselves for what was to come. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew that failure wasn't an option. As the dreadnought loomed larger in their viewports, Halley gave the order to deploy boarding parties. Teams of soldiers armed with plasma rifles and explosives prepared to infiltrate the alien vessel and disable its core. The operation was chaotic and dangerous. The boarding parties fought their way through corridors filled with hostile. The aftermath of the battle lingered heavily in space. The Terran fleet, though victorious, bore the scars of its first major confrontation with the Galactic Council. Ships drifted through the debris field, their hulls scorched and battered from enemy fire. Crew members worked tirelessly to repair damage, tend to the wounded, and assess the losses. The sight of destroyed alien vessels floating lifelessly in the void served as a grim reminder of the cost of war. For every cheer of triumph, there was a moment of silence for those who had fallen. On the bridge of the Solstice, Captain Marcus Halley stood motionless, his eyes scanning the wreckage. His face was calm, but inside he felt a storm of emotions. Pride swelled in his chest as he thought of how far humanity had come, but it was tempered by sorrow for the lives lost. He glanced at Daniel Carter and Rachel Monroe, who were busy analyzing data from the battle. Their expressions mirrored his own mix of relief and grief. This victory had been hard won, and they all knew it wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The destruction of the dreadnought had turned the tide, forcing the aliens to retreat. But the fleet's success didn't erase the reality of what they were up against. The Galactic Council still outnumbered them, outgunned them, and possessed technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Winning one battle didn't mean they had won the war. As much as Halley wanted to celebrate, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just a pause, a brief moment of respite before the next attack. "We need to regroup," Halley said, breaking the silence on the bridge. His voice was steady, commanding attention. "Assess our losses, repair what we can, and prepare for whatever comes next." Daniel nodded, already pulling up reports on the ship's systems. "We've got several ships with critical damage," he said. "Some are beyond repair. We'll need to redistribute personnel from those vessels to others," Rachel added, "and we're running low on supplies, fuel, ammunition, medical kits. If we don't restock soon, we won't last another fight." Halle clenched his jaw. They had pushed themselves to the limit, and now their resources were stretched thin. The fleet couldn't afford to stay in deep space for long without replenishing its stockpiles. But returning to Earth wasn't an option, yet not until they were sure the aliens wouldn't follow them. Earth was defenseless, its skies empty except for the remnants of the fleet protecting it. Bringing the wounded and depleted ships back now would leave the planet vulnerable. "Send out scouts," Halle ordered. "Find us a safe place to regroup, a nearby moon or asteroid belt where we can hide and make repairs. And get a message to Earth, let them know we held our ground, but we're not out of danger yet." The crew sprang into action, carrying out his orders with precision. Scouts launched from the carriers, scanning the surrounding area for a suitable location. Meanwhile, communications officers worked to establish contact with Earth, ensuring the message was encrypted to prevent interception by any lingering alien forces. As the hours passed, the fleet limped toward a distant asteroid belt identified by the scouts. It was a desolate place, filled with jagged rocks and endless shadows, but it offered the cover they needed. Once inside, engineers and technicians set up temporary stations on the larger asteroids, using them as bases to repair damaged ships and refuel engines. Medical teams worked around the clock to treat the injured, their hands moving swiftly despite their exhaustion. Among the crew, morale remained high but fragile. Stories of bravery and sacrifice spread quickly, lifting spirits even in the darkest moments. John Miller, the former teacher turned fighter pilot, became something of a legend after single-handedly taking out 3 alien fighters during the battle. Emily Dawson earned praise for her quick thinking, saving an entire squadron from ambush by rerouting their flight path at the last second. These acts of heroism reminded everyone why they were fighting, not just for survival, but for each other. But not all stories ended well. Some pilots never returned from their missions, their ships reduced to drifting wreckage in the vastness of space. Others perished aboard the larger vessels, victims of explosions or breaches in the hull. Each loss weighed heavily on the survivors, a constant reminder of the stakes. In quiet moments, crew members gathered to share memories of those who had fallen, their voices soft but filled with determination. They vowed to honor the dead by continuing the fight, no matter how difficult it became. While the fleet worked to recover, President LeVar Bennett addressed the people of Earth. Her speech was broadcast across the globe, reaching millions of households. She spoke of the fleet's bravery, acknowledging the sacrifices made by those who have fought and died to protect the planet. Her words were somber but hopeful, urging humanity to remain united in the face of adversity. "This is not the end," she said, standing in front of a backdrop of stars. "It is only the beginning. The Galactic Council underestimated us once, and they will do so again. Let them learn that Earth is not to be trifled with. Together we will rise to meet whatever challenges lie ahead." Her message resonated deeply with the people. On Earth, communities came together to support the fleet, organizing drives to collect materials and supplies. Factories ramped up production, working day and night to build new ships and weapons. Scientists and engineers collaborated to improve existing designs, drawing lessons from the battle to make the fleet stronger. Even children pitched in, writing letters and drawing pictures to boost the morale of the crew. Back in the asteroid belt, Daniel and Rachel pored over data from the battle, searching for ways to improve the fleet's capabilities. They studied recordings of the alien ships, analyzing their movements and tactics. Every detail mattered, every weakness they could exploit, every advantage they could gain. Their work was exhausting, but they refused to slow down. Humanity's survival depended on innovation, and they were determined to deliver. One discovery stood out above the rest. During the final moments of the battle, sensors aboard the Solstice had detected a strange energy signature emanating from the Dreadnought's core. At first, Daniel thought it might have been a malfunction in the readings, but further analysis revealed something extraordinary. The aliens had been using a form of energy unlike anything humanity had encountered before, a raw, untapped power source that seemed almost limitless. "If we can harness that energy," Daniel said excitedly, pointing to the data on his screen, "we could revolutionize our technology. Shields, weapons, propulsion systems, we'd have the edge we need to take on the Council." Rachel frowned, her excitement tempered by caution. "It's risky. We barely understand how it works. Trying to replicate it could blow us apart." No, Daniel admitted, "but we don't have a choice. If we want to win this war, we have to take risks." After much debate, they decided to move forward with the project. With the help of the engineering team, they began designing prototypes to test the feasibility of incorporating the alien energy source into human technology. Progress was slow, fraught with setbacks and failures, but they persisted, driven by the knowledge that their work could change the course of the war. Meanwhile, Captain Hale focused on preparing the fleet for the next encounter. He knew the Galactic Council wouldn't stay away for long. When they returned, they would come with greater numbers and more advanced weapons. The fleet had to be ready not just to defend itself, but to strike back. Training intensified, with pilots practicing maneuvers and gunners honing their aim. New recruits arrived daily, eager to join the fight. Many were young, barely out of training, but their enthusiasm was infectious. Veterans like John and Emily took them under their wings, teaching them everything they knew about combat in space. Bonds formed quickly, forging a sense of camaraderie that strengthened the fleet's unity. As days turned into weeks, the fleet slowly regained its strength. Damaged ships were repaired, supplies were replenished, and morale improved. The shadow of loss still lingered, but it was accompanied by a growing sense of purpose. Everyone understood what was at stake, and they were willing to give everything to protect their home. Finally, the time came to leave the asteroid belt. With repairs complete and supplies stocked, the fleet prepared to resume its mission. Before departing, Hale gathered the crew for a final briefing. Standing on the bridge of the solstice, he looked out at the faces of men and women who had risked everything for Earth. "We've proven ourselves once," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Now it's time to prove ourselves again. The Galactic Council thinks they can crush us, but they're wrong. We're stronger than they imagined, smarter than they expected, and braver than they can comprehend. When we return to Earth, we'll do so as victors, not just in battle, but in spirit." The crew erupted into cheers, their voices ringing out in defiance. For the first time since the battle, hope burned brightly in their hearts. They had faced the galaxy's greatest powers and emerged triumphant. Now they were ready to do it again. As the fleet sailed out of the asteroid belt, its ships gleamed with renewed purpose. The scars of battle remained, a testament to their resilience, but they also served as a warning to anyone who dared underestimate them. Humanity had risen from mockery to triumph, showing the galaxy that Earth was not to be dismissed. The road ahead would be long and perilous, but the Terran fleet was undeterred. The Terran fleet moved steadily through the vastness of space, its ships shining faintly under the distant light of stars. The journey back to Earth was quiet but tense, with every crew member aware that their victory had only bought them time. The Galactic Council would not forget what had happened. They had been humiliated, and they would return stronger, angrier, and more determined than ever. For now, though, humanity had a chance to prepare, to rebuild, and to show the galaxy that Earth was no longer an easy target. As the fleet approached Earth's orbit, the sight of their home planet brought tears to many eyes. From space, it looked peaceful, a blue-green jewel floating in the endless black. But everyone aboard the ships knew that peace was fragile. Earth's skies were still empty except for the remnants of the fleet, and its people were counting on them to protect it. The weight of responsibility hung heavy on their shoulders, but it also fueled their determination. President Lavra Bennett greeted the returning heroes with a speech broadcast live across the globe. Standing in front of a crowd gathered at a spaceport, She praised the bravery of the fleet and acknowledged the sacrifices made during the battle. Her words were simple but powerful, reminding humanity of what they had achieved together. "We have shown the galaxy that Earth is united," she said. "That we are strong, that we are resilient, and that we will not be pushed aside. This is our moment, and I have faith that we will rise to meet it." Her message resonated deeply with people around the world. Communities came together to celebrate the fleet's return, organizing parades and festivals in their honor. Children waved flags and adults cheered as the ships descended into the atmosphere. It was a moment of pride, but beneath the surface, there was also a shared understanding that the fight was far from over. The celebrations were tinged with urgency, a reminder that humanity needed to keep moving forward. Back on Earth, Daniel, Carter, and Rachel Monroe threw themselves into their work. The alien energy source they had discovered during the battle remained their top priority. If they could harness it, they believed it could give humanity the edge it needed to stand against. The Galactic Council, working alongside teams of scientists and engineers, they experimented tirelessly, testing theories and building prototypes. Progress was slow and setbacks were frequent, but they refused to give up. Every failure brought them closer to success. 1. Breakthrough came when Rachel realized that the energy source interacted differently with certain materials. By modifying the composition of the fleet's shields, they could create a barrier capable of withstanding even the most powerful alien weapons. Daniel built on this discovery, finding ways to channel the energy into plasma cannons, making them more efficient and destructive. The innovations were revolutionary, transforming the fleet's capabilities overnight. Meanwhile, Captain Marcus Halley focused on strengthening the fleet's defenses. He oversaw the construction of new ships, incorporating the latest advancements into their designs. Factories worked around the clock to produce vessels faster and stronger than before. Training programs expanded, bringing in fresh recruits eager to join the fight. Veterans like John Miller and Emily Dawson played key roles, teaching the newcomers everything they had learned in battle. Bonds formed quickly, forging a sense of unity that permeated every level of the fleet. But not all challenges were technological or tactical. The psychological toll of war weighed heavily on the crew. Many struggled with memories of lost friends and comrades, haunted by the faces of those who hadn't returned. To address this, counselors and support groups were established, providing a safe space for people to share their feelings. Stories of resilience and hope spread, helping to heal wounds both visible and invisible. As weeks turned into months, Earth transformed. Once divided nations set aside their differences, working together toward a common goal. Resources were pooled, knowledge was shared, and barriers dissolved in the face of a greater threat. The spirit of cooperation extended beyond governments, reaching ordinary citizens who found ways to contribute. Farmers donated food, artists created murals celebrating the fleet's bravery, and teachers educated children about the importance of unity. Humanity was no longer just surviving, it was thriving. The Galactic Council watched these developments with growing unease. Their initial dismissal of Earth had turned into concern, then into outright fear. Reports filtered back to them of humanity's rapid progress, of fleets being rebuilt and technologies advancing at an unprecedented rate. Some council members argued for immediate retaliation, while others urged caution. They had underestimated Earth once. They couldn't afford to do so again. Finally, after months of preparation, the council launched its counterattack. A massive armada of ships descended upon Earth, their arrival announced by a deafening roar that shook the planet. Cities darkened as the alien vessels blocked out the sun, casting long shadows across continents. Panic gripped the population, but it was short-lived. Humanity had been preparing for this moment, and they were ready. The Terran fleet launched into the sky, meeting the invaders head-on. This time, the battle was fiercer than ever. Alien weapons fired relentlessly, their beams cutting through the atmosphere and scorching the ground below. But Earth's defenses held firm. The new shields absorbed the worst of the attacks, and the upgraded plasma cannons retaliated with devastating force. Explosions lit up the horizon as ships on both sides clashed in a deadly dance. John and Emily led squadrons of fighters, weaving through enemy formations and taking out targets with precision. Their teamwork was flawless, a testament to the countless hours spent training and fighting together. Behind them, larger ships provided cover, their cannons roaring as they unleashed salvos of missiles. The aliens fought fiercely, but humanity's ingenuity gave them the upper hand. At the heart of the battle, the Solstice served as both a fortress and a weapon. Its advanced systems allowed it to coordinate attacks across the fleet, ensuring maximum efficiency. Daniel and Rachel monitored the ship's performance, adjusting tactics in real time based on data streaming in from the battlefield. Their innovations proved invaluable, allowing the fleet to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. The turning point came when Daniel proposed a bold plan. Using the alien energy source, he suggested creating a massive pulse that could disable the Council's ships en masse. It was risky, the energy required was immense, and if something went wrong, it could destroy the Solstice. But Captain Halle agreed it was worth the risk. With Rachel overseeing the process, Daniel activated the device, sending a shockwave rippling through space. The effect was immediate. Alien ships faltered, their systems disrupted by the pulse. Weapons powered down, engines sputtered, and shields collapsed. Seizing the opportunity, the Terran fleet pressed its advantage, targeting the immobilized vessels with relentless precision. One by one, the alien ships fell, their hulls breaking apart under the barrage of fire. Seeing their forces crumble, the Council called for a retreat. Their ships turned tail and fled, disappearing into the depths of space. And the battle was over, and humanity had won. On Earth, the skies cleared, revealing a planet battered but unbroken. Smoke rose from damaged cities and scars marred the landscape, but the people stood tall. They had faced the greatest powers in the galaxy and emerged victorious. Cheers erupted as news of the victory spread, echoing across continents and uniting humanity in celebration. President Bennett addressed the world once more, her voice filled with emotion. Today, we have proven ourselves, she said. We have shown the galaxy that Earth is not to be underestimated. We are strong, we are united, and we will never stop fighting for our future. For Daniel and Rachel, the victory was bittersweet. They had achieved what many thought impossible, but the cost had been high. Friends and colleagues had been lost, and the scars of war would linger for generations. Still, they took solace in knowing that their efforts had made a difference. Humanity had risen from mockery to triumph, earning a place among the stars. As the Terran fleet sailed back toward Earth, its ships gleamed with renewed purpose. The scars of battle remained, a testament to their resilience, but they also served as a warning to anyone who dared underestimate them. Humanity had risen from mockery to triumph, showing the galaxy that Earth was not to be dismissed. The road ahead would be long, and challenges would undoubtedly arise. But for now, humanity could look to the future with hope. They had proven that unity, determination, and innovation could overcome even the greatest odds. And as the skies above Earth darkened once more, not with despair, but with possibility, they knew that the best was yet to come.